Hi, welcome to Write More Light. My name is Sarah. I'm with the Midwest Writing Center, and this is one of those educational and informational programs that PBS warned you about. Um, what to expect today, if you're unfamiliar with the program, today is an interview day. So I am getting to talk to somebody doing something cool in the arts. On alternate videos, I will give some kind of itty bitty writing lesson, and then after the meat of the video, I'll give you updates on the Midwest Writing Center and leave you with a writing prompt. Today, I am super excited to introduce to you. Let me see if I can do this without like showing the book cover too bigly. I can, but you can see it anyway. Uh, Alisha Jeddeloh is the founding fiction editor of Brink Literary Journal and editor-in-chief of Brink Books. Her work on Malleable and True builds on 20 years of editorial experience, including the We the Interwoven anthology series from the Bicultural Iowa Writers Fellowship at the Iowa Writers House. As an editor, she enjoys nothing more than discovering writing that makes the world new and helping it shine. As a writer, she explores the human desire for transcendence and the fractured narratives we tell ourselves and others in our search for it. She lives in Iowa City with her family and her dog and cat, Oliver Twist and the Artful Dodger. I don't think I have ever read a more honest bio. Thank you so much, Alicia, for giving me your time this morning or whenever people are watching.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Just from your bio, I want to say, having worked with you as an editor, I don't think there's anything more like anyone more holistic. Like that was such an accurate, I think, description of how you work as an editor. That made me really happy.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really fun to work with you. For those of you who don't know, Sarah was in volume 2 of the We the Interwoven bicultural anthology with a beautiful essay about her Armenian grandmother. And it was really fun to kind of start this collaborative, creative relationship.
Honestly, I learned so much about like how to be a writer from that. That's crazy to think about now. Oh, thank you.
It makes me really happy to hear.
I I've been doing revisions lately, and so I've been thinking a lot about like where and when things turn and how to do that because revising alone is so hard.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I've had a lot of reference points for yeah, where I got the insights. And this just like was the last piece of that jigsaw puzzle.
Hmm.
Amazing. Thanks. You changed my life
Love hearing that. It
for the
feels,
better, obviously.
editing can feel so, just very specific and does it really matter? But I think it does make a difference as a writer, speaking as a writer as well, to have a good editor can really help you grow as a writer.
Actually, since we're just already here, can you talk about what editing is a little bit? I feel like a lot of people may conflate proofreading with editing, for
Mm.
example.
Hmm. Yeah, there are many different levels of editing. First of all, of course, as a writer, I think most of us, if you're not, you should be revising your own work. But then in publishing, there is developmental editing, which is where you're really working with a writer to shape a piece, which we did with your piece and We the Interwoven. And then there's copy editing, which is more of like a little bit more of a line level edit. And you are looking for grammar and punctuation, but you're also looking for consistency and factual errors and clarity. So it's a little bit less big picture than developmental editing, but it's broader than proofreading, which is that final stage where the piece is essentially done and you're just looking for errors, punctuation, grammar, formatting issues, and things like that.
Thank you so much. I know, yeah, with especially how many kinds of editing there are, a lot of folks are like they say that they're looking for an editor, but what they mean is, I think generally people don't understand, the layman will say, don't understand that like there's so much more than copy editing going on.
Yeah.
I will say, the world owes all the flowers to developmental editors. We have just no idea how important these people are.
hmm Yes. And I hear a lot from people who are publishing now saying that editors do less editing. I'm not sure if that's true or not. There's a famous story about Raymond Carver and his editor who really completely changed his stories. And you can read both of them side by side and see which is maybe which you prefer if you think it was better or not. But it really can be an enormous part of the process and hopefully helpful.
I feel really one, like this is a really novel thing I'm about to describe, but I'm so, so grateful that my best friend in college went to editor school. And so when they had like an assignment to do developmental edits or line edits or whatever, they were like, "Hey, you have anything?" So I don't think I could ever have the whatever it is, whatever it takes to do developmental edits. Like that brain that y'all
Mm,
have is something else. Um, but like what a privilege to be able to sort of learn how editing works and also like be the guinea pig.
yes, that
Amazing.
is not
Everybody should
easy.
have an editor friend, especially because
Yes,
like that's expensive work.
it is. And I think there is can be a little bit, it feels like a black box sometimes to writers. First of all, knowing what the different kinds of editing are, and then what the work is being done. And unfortunately, a really in-depth edit is expensive because it takes a lot of time and expertise. But,
Expertise.
and you want to make sure that you're getting a good, like if you are working with an editor yourself and not through a publisher, make sure
Hmm.
that you are getting somebody who is doing the kind of work that you want to be done.
Yeah.
So as
Yeah,
value
knowing.
as yeah, as invaluable as editing is, it is not straightforward necessarily to try to find somebody good to work with that jives with your work.
Oh, God, and knowing your own needs is a whole different skill. Okay. Anyway, back to what it means to edit a journal. I found a
Yes.
segue. Uh First, can you tell me a little bit about how Brink, hold on, let me hold up a Brink book. Um, how Brink came to be? Actually,
So
wait, I'm so sorry. Can you tell me what Brink is?
that would probably be good. Brink is a nonprofit independent publisher of hybrid writing. So hybrid writing is writing that often includes multiple mediums. It could include like visual elements alongside text. And it just is writing that looks a little bit different. It's not your traditional form. And my friend Nina writes hybrid writing. She was working on a memoir and she was having a really hard time finding literary journals that published work that was outside of the traditional poetry, essays, and short stories. And out of that frustration, she decided, well, if nobody else will do it, I'm going to do it. And I had had the editing experience. I've been an independent editor for many years, and I write fiction. And I'd had a little bit of experience editing journals, but mostly books. And I thought it would be fun to do. And it was 2020, and we were stuck at home, and it was one of those projects that really, I think, gave us all a little bit of life when we were trapped in this uncertainty and really kind of in your own head. It allowed us to get out of our heads and create something. And somehow we had our first journal come out in 2021 in the spring, and it was super fun. And we, when you start doing a thing like that and you've never done it before, you don't know, is this actually going to work? Can we actually do this? And it did. And so we kept going, and we just published our 10th issue last year. And it's been so fun to see it grow and develop as a journal. And then should I go on and explain how we've expanded a lot
Yeah.
since the journal?
I was
So
kind of tripping that it's only been since 21 because I mean like that's a long time, But you know
Mhm.
how like there's that time cutoff for, I don't know, 21 or 20 through 22, where
Yeah,
like it's all one block of
it's
time.
all one. Yes. Yeah, it's hard to believe it's gone really fast. Um, so to celebrate our fifth year, we pulled together some of our favorite hybrid pieces from the first 10 issues and created a hybrid craft anthology and launched our book imprint, Brink Books. And I moved over to the Brink imprint side of things from the journal to take that on. And so the anthology came out last fall, and we have our first single title as a hybrid memoir coming out this September. And in addition to that, we have a third leg of the stool, you could say. So we have the journal, which is the initial start, and it's grown to a book imprint as well as we continue to do the journal. And we're also stepping into production. So for those of you who are familiar with Mission Creek, last year was the 20th anniversary and the last Mission Creek Festival, which is a celebration of literature and music. And we decided that, well, Andre Perry, who started the Mission Creek, decided that that was the end of that iteration, but he asked if we would be interested in putting on a new festival. So this April, I think it's the 25th. Yeah, April 25th, we are launching a new production called Day Party. It's in Iowa City, and it's just one day of art and music on the south side of Iowa City, south of Burlington, in this little neighborhood where Little Village is housed, and a plated table, this like wonderful little restaurant, and Trumpet Blossom Cafe. So there'll be all kinds of panels and music shows for people to go to that day at like a spring celebration. So that's the third like very new part of Brink that is all housed under that umbrella of celebrating kind of unclassifiable art that's a little outside the box.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
I didn't I didn't know. I feel like I'm not paying attention.
It's very new. I think we just announced it like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, well that makes me feel better. Thank you. Um okay, so then what I don't know why I'm looking in a direction where my questions are not. Uh what is it like editing a journal versus anything else?
The
This-
thing that is
Sorry, go ahead.
The thing that's really, unique about a journal is that you have multiple shorter pieces, and it's fast paced because you're putting out an issue for us, we're putting out an issue twice a year. So we're already working ahead, a couple of issues ahead. And it's very dynamic in that way that you get to work with so many writers um, at different levels. Some pieces come to us and they're pretty well formed. Some pieces we're really excited about, but they need a little bit more work. So you really get a variety and you don't get bored very easily. So that's what's fun about the journal. Um, on the other hand, with books and longer form work, you really get to dive deep into a work and you really build that relationship with the writer. That is something that I really enjoy, that back and forth, and really seeing, usually there's more, it takes a little bit longer, just we do more revisions with the book. So you really do get to build that relationship and really have this polished final product that hopefully you can get into your readers' hands.
I'm thinking it must be especially it's great to hear, by the way, that you like the back and forth because I don't think there's anything cooler than engaging with someone who cares about your work. Um, I imagine that it's very different editing hybrid work than anything else. As hybrid work, like there's no set expectation of what you're going to get. Can you talk about your process with that?
We really have to approach each piece with an openness to what it's trying to do. A lot of the rules that you would normally follow in editing, like a short story or an essay, just are not going to apply. So on the one hand, that's very freeing. On the other, you do need a solid base of like knowing what the rules are so that you can tell, yes, let's break these rules, but this one readers are going to think is just a sloppy mistake. Like, how do you walk that line between unorthodox punctuation, let's say, and then something just looking like it's an error? So it is, I think there's a little bit of that extra um, time that it takes to figure out what a piece is doing and how it's trying to work, and honoring whatever form that it takes while also making sure that the reader can really understand what it's trying to do and it is successful in that way in communicating to the reader what it is trying to communicate.
I have heard, and I guess I subscribe to this for sure, that each piece of writing, like no matter what it is, teaches you how to read it. And I guess I never specifically thought of how that would be different in a non-traditional form. That's
Mm-hmm.
cool. And probably if it doesn't do that, it's probably not doing its job. Like, not to say that there isn't space, of course, for things that are difficult or like especially intentionally maybe frustrating to read because
Mm-hmm.
there are reasons that we do that. Which is a really good segue, actually. You said something really gorgeous in your intro to Malleable and True about I'm gonna try not to just read it, but I think I probably have to. It's underlined like I'll send you a picture of this. You'll either be flattered or horrified.
I'm sure flattered.
Or the underlines in the forward. Um, so yeah, I'll just read it. Um, the editorial and production process for this kind of writing can be complex and costly, which is one reason it remains underrepresented in traditional publishing. That absence matters. Hybrid writing often comes from writers whose identities, perspectives, or stories have long been considered non-traditional. There's an exclamation point in my notes there. Observing and working to correct this omission, Brink holds space for writing that looks and feels different on the page. Hybrid writing is not experimental or ekphrastic. Ekphrasis is art that responds to other art. Experimental writing is, of course, an act of experiment. Um, I said writing that responds to art that responds to other art is my definition for ekphrasis. Uh,
Yes. And that's not to say that hybrid writing can't be ekphrastic, but some people, I think, consider that the only
No, for sure.
definition.
I've come
Yeah.
across that interpretation before. It is a hybrid writing is a finished product born from vision and hard work. It is a literary style that prioritizes the combination of multiple linguistic and artistic elements to produce a readable, engaging piece of work that, in its complexity and texture, honors the author's voice. Uh, I'll just read the next bit too because it's nice. By publishing hybrid writing, we empower voices previously kept silent because their stories are too messy or too complicated for print. We believe that this difference is a strength, that these diverse voices and methods of storytelling make not only our art but our communities stronger. So the question in there is maybe just something I'm excited about, which is the idea, and I've seen this other places for what it's worth. Um, that hybrid writing often comes from writers whose identities or experiences are, well, I like the word messy, so long as it doesn't, I guess, have a negative connotation on it. It's just not tidy. It just doesn't fit, I don't know, properly into our expectations. Um, I just think that that's really special, and I really, really agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think something I've been thinking on a lot lately, and the context for this is I've been working on hybrid and collage uh, collection myself, and also engaging with a lot of people about it. And I forgot where this sentence began,
Mm.
the context for why I'm thinking about it. But Why am I talking about it?
Well, I
Oh,
was thinking
erasure.
erasure.
I think that
Mhm.
erasure comes up so often in this place too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I just can't really imagine editing that. Um, but with so many, we'll say, outside the dominant culture identities or perspectives,
Mm.
there is a lot of erasure inherent to the identity.
Hmm.
I guess that was just an aside, not a question.
No, that's very true. We've had a lot of writers who come from different backgrounds, and their stories don't fit into a nice linear structure. And one of the things that is nice about hybrid writing is it's almost like poetry, for example. Nobody necessarily expects a poem to like make logical sense. There's like a poem's logic to it. And for the most part, people are willing to give hybrid writing that same sort of like looseness with understanding with like a it doesn't have to be linear, but it does I just think it can take so many forms, and it really does require from an editing perspective the ability to look at the current form and see if there's ways that it could be drawn out even more in a way that reflects the story that's trying to be told. Sometimes we will get submissions where it feels like a writer wanted to play with form, but the story or the piece didn't really require it, and it feels a little bit tacked on. So it is a really important part of the process is figuring out like what needs to
I've
be,
done that.
yeah. And it's fun. Like I get it. Like I've done it too. But like how does the story like need to be told? What is the best way for it to be told? Um, and it can be tricky, but you kind of get a knack for it once you start reading it and working with it.
And I think that's cool too, by the way, dear writers of the world. Do play with form. Don't
Yeah.
do also recognize if that's all you're doing and whatever it is that you've written doesn't need that or want it.
And
That's hard.
sometimes it's just a first step too. And then you might say, like, oh, it doesn't need it. I can take that out. Or you might realize this isn't really, it's just kind of surface level, but it's a next step to going deeper or figuring out a different way to approach it. So I really believe that it's important to just play and experiment and be open to the idea that it could just be play, but it could lead to something else, something more permanent.
Yeah, I personally I often get really attached to whatever it is I started with, which is often form. And when that happens, it's usually just me. Like it's not the piece requesting this particular thing. And once I accept that, realize, allow that, then I can finish the piece.
Could I ask you about your piece that we published in the journal? Was it in issue 9 or
Nine.
issue 9? You wrote this beautiful piece about three berries fell from heaven, I think is
Mhm.
the title, and how you approached that as a hybrid. Like, did you know what the form was going to be? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the form and like how you came to that form as a
That
writer.
is that is a situation in which I was really attached to my form to begin with, which was a how-to, maybe a recipe, but a how-to. Thank you, by the way. Um, and I was so angry with this piece because it wasn't good, because it was a how-to. It was sweet, it's about following your grandma around making coffee, um, in a list. And I got really mad because I was trying to revise this piece. I wanted it to be good. I had been thinking of it for years. Um and it just wasn't. And I don't know what I was why my head went there, except that I just really love coffee. I guess there's some context here. It's really about coffee. I mean,
Mhm.
it's sort of about coffee. Um, and I was like, I'm gonna write about the guy with the jumping goats. Um, and that's what opened it up for me.
Mhm.
I got really, really frustrated with the piece that I had written, and I was really, really attached to the form. Um, and the topic, at least to me, the surface topic, right? I think the greater topic is like the relationship you have with your culture. Um, was coffee. And I was like, how do I write about coffee? Um, and it was sort of a joke to myself. Like writing is always important, and any writing I do is has never ever ever been in vain. But I was like, I'm just gonna try to like clear my head about it. And that's when I started writing about the the gentleman in coffee lore who is credited with discovering coffee. Um, and from there, I sort of the the story sort of came together um in I guess in a more narrative way than the list. And I realized that I had three sections, which delighted me because the number three in folktale is super important. And also, there's when you make Armenian coffee, you have three boils. Um, and so when I saw that I had three sections, I was like, amazing. We're doing a recipe, we're doing folktales. The title then comes from Armenian folktales all end with rather than so they open with once there was and was not, which is like once upon a time. And they end with rather than they lived happily ever after, three apples fell from heaven. Um, and one is for the teller, one is for the listener, and the third one is hotly contested. Um, which is a delight. I did a lot of weird research on that. And I think that's also a cool thing if you are doing something funky or you're not sure what the sticking point is, research is fun. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, after I realized there were three sections, everything sort of worked itself out.
Hmm.
Thank you. That's a
Yeah,
favorite thing of mine to play with this form. I I think of it as like cross styles. Um I say like part folklore, part recipe, right? The the journal uses the word trace, which is a favorite term of mine, so that made me very, very happy. Do you want to talk about that?
sure. In the journal, so we do publish kind of more straightforward poetry and short stories and essays, but for the hybrid pieces, we have what we call evocations. Um, because these are pieces that don't necessarily fit into a specific genre, we like to make up our own, and we have a whole anthology of all of the different evocations that we've used. And I thought that Trace just really, it was working on many levels with the piece. It was working with like tracing the history of the coffee bean, the traces of memory, um, even traces of like coffee grounds in your cup. It felt just very evocative. When I thought of it for this piece, I was like, okay, that's it. And it doesn't necessarily, at first I was like, I don't know why I like this. And then as I thought about it, like, well, it's for all these reasons. But that is one of probably one of my favorite parts of working on the journal was coming up with the different categories for the hybrid work.
That's so cool. It was like I saw it and I teared up. I was like, that's correct. Definitely is scrunchy. Um, in the gosh, I don't know a lot of like lit theory stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but I know it references to something being missing. And I was like,
Mm.
that's everything.
Mhm.
So what I'm saying is
Yeah.
you're super insightful and the best.
It was a really fun piece to work on, and I think it makes sense that once you hit the three-part structure, it kind of cracked open, and it felt the form felt very necessary to me. And we didn't really do much developmental work on it. It was like pretty more just copy editing level. It was really fun. And I love fairy tales too. So it was extra,
I
every editor has their like things that they like. So that's something I do like to tell people who are submitting work that a lot of it is really personal. There are some editors who don't like fairy tales, and that's a them problem. That's not like a you as a writer problem. And it is really very it's almost like a chemistry between the editor and the writer.
yeah, I man, editors and probably like the matching of editor to writer is just magical. I feel so lucky. I have not, although it could be that I just like won't like if the that I don't know, alchemy, that chemistry is not there, like people don't end up working together, but I've really
Mhm.
only had good experiences with editors.
That's great.
Yeah. Um, thank you. So back to back to my questions for you. Um, Brink, the literary journal, you've already said this, has recently expanded into Brink Books. So can you talk a little bit about goals for the journal or the press, and then where Brink Books expects to go?
Absolutely. So we are continuing with the journal. We have a new editor-in-chief, Hannah Bonner, who was formerly the poetry editor, and she's got a lot of ideas for that side of things. We are starting to offer online classes. That's new for us. We're offering our second class, I believe it's in May. It's with the poet Victoria Chang. It sounds really delightful. I'm going to try to take it. She's an amazing poet. And we're looking into maybe doing more with book reviews as review space in publications continues to shrink. Like the Washington Post just canceled all of their book coverage. And of course, we're not the Washington Post, but I think the more opportunities there are for books to be reviewed, the better. So that's something else we're looking to do with the journal, in addition to just continuing to champion hybrid writing. And with the imprint, the anthology was our first project. It was a big one. We thought, oh, this will be easy because we have so much great work from the journals that we can just pull from. And then we decided to make it a little bit harder on ourselves by turning it into a craft anthology, because we do get a lot of people who are interested in hybrid writing, but it is slippery and hard to define. And I think a lot of writers would like a little guidance, like how do I do this? So we pulled 10 of our favorite pieces, or 20. So two pieces from each of the first 10 issues we pulled. And we asked the original contributors to go back and re-engage with their work. So some people did an interview, some people wrote process and craft essays, some people did just a totally new piece, and in a way that re-engaged with the original piece. And then we asked them to come up with hybrid generative prompts and reflections on hybridity. And that was a really fun project. It was really meaty. I'm really proud of it. I think if you're interested in hybrid writing, it's like the perfect place to start, because it really is kind of the cream of the crop from what we've published at Brink. And now we're turning our focus more to single titles. And our first single title is coming out in September. It's by a writer named Katie Bennett. It's called She Was Wild Grass. And it's a hybrid memoir. So it's a coming of age artistic memoir of Katie and how she became a writer, braided with the story of Joan Volmer, who was married to William S. Burroughs. And he shot and killed her and got away with it. And she kind of disappeared a little bit from that beat history of the beat writers. So she did a lot of primary research to recover and reclaim, again, with the erasure. She'd been kind of erased from this history, to reclaim a little bit of Joan Bulmer and her story. And it's just a really great read. It's just very propulsive. And I'm really excited to get that out this September. And then starting next year, we'll be publishing at least 2 books a year. We're kind of finalizing our list for the next year, and we'll just kind of see how it goes as we find our footing. But that's That's what's up next for us.
I think what's so cool about let me just get so excited I have to reposition. What's so cool about hybrid, I guess, but when I'm looking at long form hybrid, for example, a hybrid memoir, um, I don't necessarily know what it means going into it. And um a lot of the times I feel like, or at least in my life historically, when people say hybrid, what they mean is I don't know what to call it.
Mm,
Um, and they don't necessarily mean that anything, for lack of a better vocabulary, they don't necessarily mean anything funky is going on. They're like, this just seems poetic. And they don't,
mhm.
of course, poetic is just an ineffable term that people use when they're like, words are complicated. Which I'm guilty of too. I'm like, this sentence makes me feel things, therefore poetry. Um,
Mhm.
and I've read well, probably a lot of hybrid memoirs. And not a single one is really alike, except that they're about the person, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so this also, you recently released the cover of this book, so I'll see if I can include that
Mhm.
in this somehow. Um, it's very cool. It was a surprise to me, that cover. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that.
Yeah.
The braiding of stories, I think, just as someone who is especially passionate about hybrid work, seems to me like it must like one must really inform the other. And I
Mhm.
think that that is a really, really cool place to go. For folks who maybe don't know what I mean when I say braiding, you see a lot of braiding in essays where someone will be probably talking about something personal, and then also they're talking about the thing that always comes to mind, and this is interesting because I did not know the term braided essay when I read it. The thing that always comes to mind is Eula Biss's, gosh, I don't know, it's about telephone poles.
Mm.
Um, and you're learning about telephone poles and you're like, why is this interesting? That's weird. And then you're like, oh, it's about racism. Uh, I should figure out the name of
That's
that
why.
essay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we see it more often in essays. We see braids pretty often, and people don't really flinch about that being hybrid, although that's also funny because Eulabis's older work and newer work is so much more hybrid than Notes
Mm.
from No Man's Land would have you know. Notes from No Man's Land is an essay collection where the telephone pole essay is.
Mhm.
Um, so there's just a reference point for folks. Um, yeah, I don't know. That really excites me, and I only know what you've said about it. I don't have special insights on that. Um, on
It
that part.
is it is hard. I have found just kind of reading some of the submissions. I think it can be hard to sustain a hybrid um story through to a book length in a single narrative. We get a lot of essay collections, which is great. Um, but there does need to be like sustaining a narrative through line from the beginning to end is something that is unique to the book form, the long form, that is a different challenge from the journal, which, you can do almost anything on a page. It can be like almost gibberish and somebody might get something out of it. But if you're asking a reader to get into a book, to commit to a single story, it is one of the challenges is making sure that they can have that delight of like discovery and putting things together on their own, but also like not just throwing them into the deep end and saying, have fun. And I think Katie's book is a great example of that. It's very accessible. It's told in vignettes, so she has, shorter pieces woven together, and it's really beautiful. I think people are really gonna like it. I mean, I love it, so of course I think people will love it too.
I expect so. Um, I'm trying not to get too much into Malleable and True. Spoiler, friends out there. Alicia and I will be talking more about Malleable and True in the future. That, of course, is the anthology. Which is fantastic. If you want to know how I feel about it, I reviewed it for Little Village. Um,
It's a wonderful review that I saved so I
oh,
can reread it.
yay. Thanks. Um, so I'm gonna try to avoid that. A lot of my questions are like, I'm just so excited about this anthology. Um, but how do you feel about your transitioning role in this space? You've been with Brink Literary forever. Um, and you're moving from fiction editor into series editor? No.
Editor in
Right.
chief, yeah,
Thank
of Brink Books. Yeah.
the term everyone knows.
Hmm. It's really exciting. I'm having so much fun just thinking about the possibilities of the long form hybrid work. There's a lot of really great books out there. We've had a hard time narrowing down as we opened for submissions last September, and we're still working our way through the final contenders because there's so much great work out there. And I think we will open again in the fall for submissions. But it's really fun to think about the list as like a big picture. A lot of editing, like from proofreading, even up through developmental editing, can be very granular. And it's really fun to think about it in this bigger way. It's like a catalog of books. Like, what's the story we're trying to tell through the different books that we're publishing? What's the order? It's kind of like ordering like a poetry collection or a book of essays or short stories. It's like, what's the story that we want readers, what's the journey we want readers to go on with us if they are with us from the beginning? Like, how does that look? And we have a great team. We have an amazing editor who is doing the developmental work for us. And we have a marketing team and a publicity team, which I don't really know very much about that side of things. So that's been really fun to get to work with this just team of people who are really excited about books and hybrid books. And I know it's really fun. I'm really enjoying it. And I love books. I think the journal was fun, but I have most of my work has been in books, and it has been really nice to get back to that, the longer form, and developing those relationships with authors and feeling like each book really has a chance to get out there in the world and that we can really promote it and help it find its readers.
I love this so much. I'm really excited about this. I think, it happens occasionally where a journal will put out books. Um, but and I said this to you before we were recording, and I think it's worth saying, and I paused because I was like, I do have all this bias because I'm really in love with these books. Uh, that's how it goes. Um, but Brink is a magazine, a journal that I will read all the way through, and I feel like a lot of the times I'll love, or anyone will love a specific magazine, and that's, um, what what you're attracted to. They do what you like. Um, but I feel like it's pretty rare to read through the whole thing
Mm-hmm.
or read it front to back or whatever. And that's fine. You can read however you feel like reading. Um, but knowing that, people put these things in a specific order for a specific reason and how much time goes into a thing, I don't know. That matters to me to say
Mm-hmm.
like this is a favorite of mine. So seeing we'll say larger or different projects being supported um, with a mission that resonates so much to me is particularly cool.
Thank you. It really means a lot when we hear how people are responding to the work because it is mostly a labor of love. Literary journals don't make a lot of money, to put it mildly. And we are doing this because we really love the work and want to share it with people. So that's one way we get compensated, is when people tell us how much they are enjoying the work. So thanks for sharing that.
Sure does pay the bills, I know. Um, I didn't actually make space for this, but if because I want to talk about I want people to know about Brink. But do you want to talk about your own work that you freelance, your own editorial work, what that looks like if you're taking folks? You can say no.
I am not doing, I have like a couple of writing clients that are kind of grandfathered in, but right now, with the imprint, it's been pretty busy. So I'm not working with individual clients right now, but we do have a lot of I know a lot of great editors out there who are looking for work. If anybody's looking for somebody specifically who focuses on hybrid writing, I know some folks.
We will find a way for you to reach out if you need to find people. What is your, so I know that you're currently working on the next long form publication. Um, but what are you most looking forward to in, I don't know, the next year of Brink books?
Well, not to sound like a broken record, but I am really excited about She Was Wild Grass coming out this September. It just feels like there's a lot of energy behind the book, and the author is really excited about sharing it. And I think,
I mean,
the
you have to
anthology,
be that excited about a book if you're going
you
to read it
do,
25 times.
you really do. And I'm excited. We just signed our next title, which has not been announced yet, but
Hmm.
like a week or two ago, we just signed our next book, and we are speaking with another writer here shortly. And I am really excited about their books, and I just feel really lucky that we found them. And having gone through this with She Was Wild Grass, like on our end, we're finalizing the design, but it's basically like we've revealed the cover. It's basically in its final form. And having gone through that with Katie's book was just such a fun experience that I'm excited to see how these manuscripts, which right now are just Word documents, how they're gonna end up in their final form that you can hold. So I think that's probably what I'm most excited about,
I
seeing
think
them in the world.
I think it's worth noting though what I said. If you're going to publish something, you're going to read it so many times, and that's
Mhm.
anyone involved in the process. The writer, the editorial team, probably the book designer, hopefully the book designer. Um,
You're going
'Cause
to be pretty sick of it.
you really, yeah, you really have to care to put that much time in because I mean, eventually the words are going to blur together. Like I
Yeah.
know on a short piece doing revisions for myself, I'm like blind to it at a certain point. I'm like, I don't even know what this is about anymore. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
so imagine doing that forever.
That's when you bring in different people in the process with
Yeah.
fresh eyes and the fresh energy to like the copy editor and the proofreader and um, reviewers. And but yes, you really do have to, it's a commitment. And it goes back to that chemistry too, I think, between the editor and the writer and the piece that they're working with. It's just so often not, it's very personal. It's not a comment on the quality of the book. It's like, is this a book that I can commit to for the next 18 months to 2 years?
Which is a big question.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, I just man, editors don't get enough credit.
Thanks.
Um, and then I didn't bring this up, but it's sort of a pet love of mine. What I refer to as extra textual elements. Something I don't think I've seen it a few places, but certainly not in a print journal. Um, can you talk about how inclusion of those things works? You've got some like video essays, some photo essays. There's a piece, well, probably more than one, but one in my mind that has a QR code. Um, how do you, this is like not a good way to end. Like this is not an ending question, but how do you navigate that in a journal?
We have a really amazing designer, and then just the editors. It does take some creativity. The video essays are new to Brink over the last couple of issues. We have an amazing video editor, Sarah Miner, um, and the videos live on our website, but we have a still from the film and then a description and a QR code. And it was fun to, I think, for them to figure out how are we going to make this live in print, but also online. And it is our, we couldn't do what we do without our designer, Stacia. She is kind of the linchpin to the whole thing. So, because it's hard to get even like a text-based piece onto the printed page. Like it can take some real creativity and
Even like
back
a
and forth.
really normal
Yeah.
text-based piece.
Yes.
The one I was thinking of course, like the QR codes I think are necessary when you've got something moving. Um,
Hmm.
but I was thinking of it must be an issue 8. I don't know why I'm trying to act like I can like I know numbers anyway, but it's like a community bulletin board.
Yeah, the community notice board.
So it's like you're reading this community board and there's a QR code on the document that you're looking at, which I think is just really, really clever.
Yes, that came to us just pretty much straight from the writer. She had put that together. She had the QR codes and she had designed each flyer as if you were looking at this community board. And we didn't have to do much editing on that one. So a lot of it is the writer's creativity and then making sure that that translates. But that is one of my favorite pieces I like to show people is like, oh, here's,
Look how much you can do.
yes, exactly.
And it's got
Mhm.
a narrative. Like it's
Yeah.
um I feel like I struggle to find places to publish. I cannot imagine having a project like that and 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 submitting it. And it is a story and it's fun. Um,
Mhm.
but like, man, and let someone who will let you do that seems
Mhm.
like a magazine, a journal that'll allow for that kind of space.
Mhm.
It has to be so hard. So bless everyone involved in stuff like that.
We feel really lucky that that is one of the advantages of being one of the few print journals that publishes this kind of work is we get this very cool stuff that literally can't find a home anywhere else. So we
Yeah.
get it.
Do you have any trying to like transition that last question into
Mhm.
a good ending question? Um, did you have any other pieces that really stick out as like, oh, that's innovative? That's not to like obviously you love all of the pieces or they wouldn't have been published.
Yes.
But are there any other pieces that stick out as like that was an innovative surprise and you know,
Um, yes. I'm trying to think of the name of the piece. There was a really cool piece. And I don't see it on here, but it was by this writer. His name is Sean Webster, and he used a lot of just images and text. He just played with text on the page in a way that was really cool. And that's one of the more recent ones that comes to mind. We
awesome.
don't, yeah, for fiction, we don't tend to get as much very super hybrid stuff. We get a lot of like flash fiction, which is fun. But that's why the community notice board was really fun for me as the fiction editor, because like, oh, this is a truly hybrid short story.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I was like I like forget genre delineation exists. And I was like, oh, is that fiction? Like, of course that's fiction. What am I saying?
I mean, it could be nonfiction. That would be
I
a
don't know how that
different
would work.
meaning.
It's found objects,
Uh-huh.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be very hybrid too.
Um, is there anything I should have asked that I didn't? I want to make sure that you that we close up in a timely way. Of course, knowing that we will be back together
Mhm.
to talk more. But is there anything I really that you wish people had heard or will hear?
Well, this has been really great. I've really loved chatting. The only thing I can think of is that we just sharing a little bit about what opportunities for folks to publish with us, maybe. We have a poetry contest. It's new. It's this April, and the judge is Danica Kelly, who's an amazing poet. And we have an emerging writer fellowship, which is near and dear to my heart because I founded the program. I'm not running it anymore, but as a way for people who are just getting into hybrid writing as a mentorship program. And you get 3 or 4 phone calls with the editors and you get to talk about everything, not just back and forth with the editing, but writing and trying to publish hybrid work. And I think that's a really special program. And I don't remember when that opens. It's all on our website. And then we do
We'll
have
link that.
a, yeah, we have a word for hybrid writing if you have something that feels very strong. And we have a different judge for that every year. The last judge was Kristen Radke. And I think, I can't remember if that piece came out in issue 10 or if it's coming out this April. So we have all of those opportunities. And then we have submissions twice a year that are open, and those are always free. And each issue is based around a theme. And we aren't really looking for stories that hit the nail on the head. Like the first issue was desire, and a lot of the pieces were kind of like coming at it more obliquely. I remember we had one issue that was trouble, and I got a lot of short stories that were set in bars with like bar fights. I'm like, that's not the kind of trouble that I'm looking for in Brink. But we we really do want to give the opportunity to writers from all backgrounds and writing all kinds of work to be able to try to get their work out there. And whether you're just getting started or you've been doing this for a while, I think there's some good opportunities. And then for Brink Books, I believe we'll be opening again for full-length manuscripts in the fall. Those will be books that you feel are ready to be published. They're like as polished as you can get them. Um, yeah, I think that's it. But again, on our website, you can see all of our opportunities. And yeah, I hope to see some work from folks if they think they have something that would be a good fit.
That's excellent. Yeah, and I will make sure everything is linked in the video. And I also want to add, although I apologize, I didn't warn you about this. I'm going to ask Alicia to write me a little list of some of her favorite hybrid journals that are not Brink, so you can expect to find that as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm going to transition into updates from the Writing Center and our writing prompt, um, which I
Thank
did
you for having me.
not.
It's always fun to talk about this stuff with people who really care about reading and writing and hybrid work. So thanks for having me.
Oh, man, yeah. Also, even if you don't write it, you should read it. It's good for your brain.
Yes, agreed.
I'm going to just give a couple of small updates for the Midwest Writing Center for April. Of course, as always, we're going to have the Writers Studio, which is our totally free literary critique group on the first and third Saturday of every month, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we've got an online version and an in-person version. They happen simultaneously. So, whatever works best for your life. Awesome. We will also, it is National Poetry Month, so make sure that you go and check out our other YouTube series, which features a new poet every single day of April, talking about, not talking about, reading their work. We've got some MWC members, we've got some emerging writers, we've got some big names. It's a perfect passion project for me. Um, and then I think the two things I'm going to really want to emphasize are the Spectra Reading Series is returning April 23rd. We've got Jeffrey McDaniel, who's an amazing, amazing, amazing poet who teaches at Sarah Lawrence. Um, Definitely do not miss event. That is April 23rd at Roz Talks. There will be a community write-in, so one of those totally free classes. And then the reading. I'm so excited. And then the adaptation anthology we've been working on since um, the fall will be released on April 30th. It's going to be titled, it is titled A Jump Between Steps. The release party will be at Galvin Fine Arts at St. Ambrose in the Madsen Hall Theater. Yeah, so be there. For today's prompt, I'm going to take it from Malleable and True. From I tried to bookmark both pages, but without bookmarks. So Sarah Mangold's piece, thought forms a record of clairvoyant investigation. Without reading the piece, I'm going to give you the prompt. She, I don't know Sarah Mangold's pronouns, um, has for this piece, which is using a poem you've already written or a new one, doesn't have to be a poem. Try graphing the elements of your poem to create a new version. What did you put on the x-axis? And what did you put on the y-axis? Why did you choose those particular words for data points? I used Excel in Word to help with the spacing, but try any graphing tools that you might not normally associate, graphic tools you might not normally associate with writing. So this is what that looks like. And of course, I forgot to give this intro. Um, put 5-10 minutes on your timer, do whatever comes. Um, and then I'm going to go to a different section of this prompt because there's multiple options in here. Take a print magazine of your choice, um, or whatever. Cut out at least 100 phrases or individual words that seem interesting or are grabbing your attention. Put them in a small box or bag. Pull out a bunch of them at random and line them up in front of you and see what happens. Thanks for hanging out with me. As always, please write more light into your life.